So this podcast is really in response to some emails that we get. So whenever someone contacts us about a podcast or a resource or whatever, we usually try and ask them a question like, is there anything that, that you're grappling with or that you would like more information with? And more often than not, it's around team building. So this podcast is giving you some really practical examples of what you can do with your team. And what we have learned along the way and through research around high performing teams is that team building activities can focus on a number of ways. So you can do them that team building activities are quite meaningful for the team, or that they are perhaps a component of, fun and learning. So these are the criteria. So a learning component, fun, connection, trust, collaboration, problem solving, conflict resolution, and goal setting. And so what we've done is we're going to give you a team building activity for each one.
Oh, very good.
And
I would have loved that. I would have loved that 20 years ago or more when I was a new manager starting out. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I meant. And I think what we'll do is we'll actually put a bit of a kit together, and that's we can put that on our website. So if you are interested in the kit, just email us. So let's run through them. And most of these are there's not a significant cost to them, is there, Michelle? I mean, you can go down that route, but we've tried to work it so you could actually do it yourself. Okay, so number one, and this is around a learning component, and this is something that a manager who I was coaching several years ago did with his team. And what he would do is every fortnight he would put a TED talk on, and it's only 10 minutes. He would supply morning tea. So at that stage, I think it was brownies, but we kind of like edged him towards, like fruit, crackers, nuts and that, and maybe a little bit of, brownie. And so he put a TED talk on for 10 minutes, and then the rest of the 20 minutes with the team would be discussing what was the takeaway. Because remember, with TED talks, there's one thing, there's one idea about how you can change. And that's what I really like about TED Talk. They're quite focused. So it's an easy learning environment. And I think one of the best TED Talks you could do with your team is called The Happiness Factor by Sean Achor, SHAWNACHOR, and we'll put the link in. And he talks about happiness is a really important key to great success. It's like a precursor to success. And the research shows that it raises every business and education outcome, from product to sales to intelligence. And the research shows that your brain is designed to perform better at positive rather than negative, neutral, or stressed. And that's why being happy for no reason, if you can get into that state, is a very empowered state. So that's tip number one.
I love that. I love it, love it, love it. Who doesn't want to be happy? So the next one is around collaboration. And this is one that we have used many a time over the years, and it's called the Spaghetti Challenge. And we'll put a link in the notes section. And so essentially you divide groups into I think groups of 7. You give them some dry spaghetti, marshmallows and marshmallows, and what they need to do is, by leveraging their strengths, by collaborating and creating a common goal, so it's all about collaboration, they have to build the biggest tower and then put the marshmallow on top. And it has been run across the world hundreds, thousands of times, and it is very interesting, particularly in the debrief section, when you talk about, well, did everybody participate? So, because this is all about collaboration, I think the setup is really important too. But as soon as people dive into the task, they forget about that and they just revert. That's right. They revert to what is their habitual way of being. So that's number 2, the collaboration exercise, and it's called the Spaghetti Challenge, and it's lots of fun.
Yeah. And to your point, Michelle, the debrief, and what they've found is that kindergartens are the ones that I think were the most successful. And then was it EAs and CEOs when they collaborated together? So there are some really interesting outcomes from that. But yeah, like you said, we'll put the link in. Number 3, so we're looking at fun activity. Now, this is something that you can do virtually or you can do face-to-face, and this is cooking. Because as we know, when we can share something that we build together and then sit down, with a meal and eat together, it creates so many, more, connections and, like valuable ways of just seeing someone in a different way, but it's quite fun. And so if you're virtual, what you do is you create like an ingredients list and a recipe. And so you have a time, okay, so 11 o'clock on Wednesday, we're going to do a team building activity, and that's what we're going to do. And so people set it up in their kitchen or whatever, and they actually cook a meal together. Hey, so I didn't have any coriander, but I'm going to use this instead, and this, that, and the other. And then you do it together.
Coriander, Jen? No,
or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you're virtual, you can create a meal. Yeah. Now, if you're face to face, you can actually do it together. You can actually get a professional and go somewhere, the markets or whatever. I think at the seafood markets you can do it. But also, what we have done is that we have gone to someone's place. And then we actually created a meal together and then sat down. So again, it depends on your environment and where you are. But I think cooking and sharing that meal is a really fun activity.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that idea. And I'm thinking, oh God, they get to see my kitchen. I don't know if I'd be happy with that. So the next one we call This Is Me. And again, this is around relationship building, bonding, getting to know each other on a level other than your role. And Jan and I created this template years ago. And the This Is Me template has a number of questions in it that people answer. And then I've seen it used so many different ways. So one of the questions could be, where do you get your energy from? What are the things that frustrates you? What's your favorite dessert? Like, you can go as deep as you want, or as silly or simple as you like. But the template that we have, and you can ask those sorts of questions. So how many siblings do you have, or are you an only child? You get to decide what those questions are, and you as a team could decide, what are we going to put in our This Is Me template? And then what I've seen some teams do really, really well is, in a team that I was working with, they put them up in the tea room. So it was a small engineering business. Whenever anybody was then new to the business, they would do a This Is Me template as part of their induction, and then that template would go up in the tea room, and then you could just see everybody's different responses to the same question. And I think one of the ones that, favorite dessert, so guess what, on that person's birthday, that's what people would bring in, etc., etc. And it just became a living thing for them in terms of relationship building and bonding. And I think they're still up in that tea room to this day. So the This Is Me template. So what it does essentially is it allows you to get to know another person when you don't have a lot of time, because over time, people reveal themselves, and you can share these experiences and ideas and frustrations and all these other things. But when you can actually put it down on paper in one snapshot, it is a way of circumventing that issue that, perhaps you don't have time. So that's, one of the benefits, and it's such a really good template, I think, for people and teams.
Love it. Yeah, we've used it so many times.
Yeah.
All right. So the 5th one is how to develop trust. And this team building activity is called significant item. And the idea is that everyone brings in a physical object of something that is important to them. And they place it, on the table at the beginning of the day or whatever. And then during different activities, or you could use that as a single team building activity. So some people use it when they go on retreats as ways of intersecting different content pieces, or you can use it as a activity in and of itself. So you bring something that is important to you. And we've had people bring in pottery, a saddle, stirrups, a beehive, like there was an active, like all different like physical representations of what is important to them. And then some people brought photos and talked about their heritage and what happened and how they came over because they were a refugee. And it just gives people a deeper insight into who they're sitting next to and spending 8 hours a day. And it really created some beautiful connections. Now, if you're virtual, what you do is you still have that item and you talk about it. So I think that's a great way of building trust because you're being open and vulnerable and sharing something about yourself.
I love that. That's one of my faves. Okay, so the next one is looking at problem solving. And a good way to explore problem solving within a team is to use a simulation. And so there are many simulations out there that you can purchase. And for example, you've been stranded on a desert island and you have these 10 items. Which ones will you utilize and how will you have to rate them from 1 to 10 as to which is most important, etc. And there are other, and again, it's the debrief that is really important. So you might win on the points, but then you have a look at how well did we go in terms of collaboration? Did we share ideas? Did one person dominate? Did I contribute? And you can also rate yourself as a team in terms of problem solving. What would we give our team or each of the teams on their problem solving as they explain it? So this could be a very short, sharp simulation, lasts 20 minutes and it's fun. You have a quick debrief, or it could be something where you then start to explore you as a team and how you tend to communicate. How does that translate in terms of how we normally solve problems? Is it really all of us referring to our manager, or is it one person, dominating? And you can use it to really explore this issue of problem solving within a team in a more fulsome way.
And so that's the low cost way. And then if you wanted to invest, a company called, who we use quite a lot, Human Synergistics, they have simulations. And I'm actually doing one next month, and I'm doing an Antarctic one. And they've got videos now that are quite immersive and they're all online. So you can actually put in your response, and then in real time, when we have a look at when the team does it together, how different it is, and then you rate yourselves, and it's going to be really good and fun. So that's another thing that you could do. The seventh one is resolving conflict. So the team building activity that we have elected is how to do difficult with me. So we're going to give you two. So one is how to do difficult with me, and the second one is the difficult conversations template. So how to do difficult with me, and we've done this with lots of senior leaders and some middle managers, but you need to have a team that feel quite psychologically safe, like they're open to sharing. And what you would do is one person is in the middle, the center, or even if you have a circle, one person starts. And I would normally start with the leader because they actually set the tone, for how deep and how vulnerable they are going to be. And what they talk about is, if you were to have a difficult conversation with me, or if you were to give me feedback, this is how I would want it. I would want you to give me the heads up, maybe put it in writing first, and maybe invite me out for a coffee. Don't do it in the office. Or I just want it in writing. Give me the dot points and then let me come to you once I've digested it to have a conversation. So now I know, that's how you would like to receive the feedback. That's how you would like to receive if I was to have a conversation with you. So that's how to do difficult with me. And then the next one is a difficult conversation template. Now, how that can be a team building activity is you actually step through the template, and you might create a scenario as a team. So let's have the scenario that we have a stakeholder, because that's what we deal with. And there's one particular stakeholder who we all know is quite pernickety. So they're really detailed. They want information ahead of time, even before we've done it. Sometimes they try and micromanage us, but we need to have a conversation with them about how we can operate more effectively. And so then you would step through that template with your team. So how do you think that they would respond? What are the words that they would use? What's the emotional tone that they would have? And you just step through the template. And that's a really good way of understanding and having words around how would we actually broach that? What would be the first sentence that we would say? Let's workshop that. And so there's lots of ways that you can do that together, so people don't feel too vulnerable to do it themselves, but they're doing it as a team.
That's a great professional development activity to do with the team before you actually need it.
And
Get
what
in
we'll
early.
and what we'll do is we will put a link to that template, because I think that it's good to have that as a resource, just to step through.
Great. And then the last one is around goal setting. And we know that when teams can set goals together, that they're more likely to achieve them, and they're more likely to sign up for them, like, emotionally, when they've been involved in the setting of the objectives. And so one way to do it is just to use this SMART acronym as a guide. Is it specific, measurable, etc.? And what we've done is that we have an approach that we use, and we start by talking to people about, does anybody have a goal that they want to achieve this year? And some people go, yeah, I want to lose a couple of pounds because I want to get into this wedding dress, and I want to run a marathon, etc., etc. And so we use that as a starting point, because what you're doing is you're ticking that box of actually understanding that everybody sets goals. Yeah, we just, we might do it differently. And we get to know a little bit about each other as well. That's the team element that comes in. And so you set the goal, and then you introduce the SMART acronym and turn it into a SMART objective for that person. And then what you do is then you transition to the team. So what are 2 goals or 3 goals that we as a team could set for ourselves that we'd like to achieve in the next 6 months? And then you use the SMART acronym as a guide, and then you can work out, so if that's our goal, what are the next steps? What are the next 3 steps that we need to achieve in order to, hit that target? And then who might be responsible, and who's got the resources, and how do we keep each other on and the team on track? So these are some of the conversations that you would have as you go about executing that goal for your team.
And I think it's really interesting that a lot of teams don't necessarily have team goals. They've got individual goals. And when you have team goals where teams, the expectation is to work together towards achieving something, that is real team building. And so a team goal could be to document all of our processes, or to problem solve a key process and make it more robust, or for us to do a racy, like and who's responsible, accountable, who do we need to inform on every key activity. And so there are some things that may look a little bit dry to do singularly, but as a team, it's quite powerful, to really look at.
And if you don't know where to start, you actually just do a bit of a brainstorm session, like, what are our biggest issues that we have? And then you can apply the filter. So of those issues, which ones do we have most control over, or do we have the resources that we could do something about? And without a doubt, Jan, over 20 years of experience working with teams and individuals in this area of performance management and goal setting, team set goals are much more likely to be achieved than individual goals when you have all the teams signed up for it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And there is just something that bonds the team when you can achieve it, and you can celebrate together, and acknowledge that, those contributions. All right. So, the invitation is to reflect on some of these, which one piqued your interest, and, have a conversation with your team. If we were to do, like a team building activity out of these, what would you, want to do? Or what you could do is put this podcast on as a team activity, and then ask your team, out of all those things that Jan and Michelle spoke about, which one do we want to do? So there you go.
Oh, I like that idea, Jan. Very good.
All right. All right. Till next time.
Bye.
And the invitation is that if you have any questions that you want us to deep dive in, or you want us to get a particular speaker on, because we get requests, or we get people coming to us wanting to speak on the podcast, but we're really particular about who we get and what they speak about. So if we know that you're interested in it, we will absolutely line it up. All right. So see you later.
Next time.
If you found that video useful, then you'll be sure to find this one useful as well.